will go to Rodgers.
I think that this is a wide open MVP race, and he has a very good opportunity to showcase that he is the best player in football and the MVP on Sunday. But I'm going to flip it on its head. I'm wearing a Titans hat right now, courtesy of the NFL shop. Thank you.
Talk about it.
Hashtag brand ad. They have a running back who's about to eclipse 2,000 yards, and he hasn't been on prime time nearly as much as Aaron Rodgers, but they're about to potentially clinch a division as well. And if Derrick Henry has one of these all-time performances in Lambeau at night on Sunday evening, I think the argument might be made for this guy. We know this is the quarterback's award, and Mahomes and Rodgers are in this great battle, and who knows, maybe Josh Allen is a late entry. But I think we might be in store for Mike Vrabel and Arthur Smith to handle the ball to this young man, and for Derrick Henry to put on one of those all-time performances and physically insert himself into that conversation. Yes, I think Rodgers and Mahomes are the front runners right now, but I think there is a wild card in the argument, and it's this guy right here. We don't see 2,000-yard seasons often, and when we do, it's sometimes a footnote to the NFL season. Maybe that shouldn't be the case. If Derrick Henry goes for like 200 yards and 2 touchdowns on Sunday night with the country watching in Lambeau and the Titans win, you better believe Derrick Henry is going to be in the conversation. So, Rodgers, MVP favorite? Sure, it's week 16. That means nothing. Give me this guy as a possible wild card to insert himself in the conversation.
I hear you on that, Schrags. Derrick Henry definitely belongs in the conversation, but it is going to come down to Sunday night. And let's just set the scene. Sunday night, crisp air, maybe around 20 degrees. They're saying 60% chance of snow. Now, one of two things can happen. Maybe Derrick Henry doesn't heat up because it's a little too chilly, and that Green Bay Packer defense gets to flying around and knocking some heads. On the flip side, Aaron Rodgers, who we've seen cook in those conditions, he could go clean off. So if he already at 40 touchdowns, adds to that with no interceptions, which he's had 9 games this season with 3 TDs plus and 0 interceptions, we know that he could put up 3 more, maybe 4 more touchdowns, no interceptions, league-leading touchdown maker. I believe that he is going to shut the door on the MVP conversation. And Kay mentioned it. You know, they're searching for that #1 spot. And the last time they were that #1 seed, Aaron Rodgers also won the MVP. I believe that was in 2011. So, only reason I'm so confident that Aaron Rodgers is going to run away with this thing, one, because the 2 other guys that were in this conversation have had games where they were just throwing the ball away recklessly. Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes. Aaron Rodgers is taking care of the ball better than them. And on the flip side, I've also seen it firsthand. I've seen Aaron Rodgers, who we call Pennywise. I've seen him late in December cooking, sitting on the sideline like, damn, with the breath coming out of my mouth. And I'm saying to myself, that dude is a certified assassin at the quarterback position. And I believe that Sunday night isn't going to be any different.
All right, we've seen it, Nate, but we didn't see it last week from the Packers and Rodgers. And they won, but I think Rodgers blinked as it pertains to the MVP race. This is why this is so fun. This is wide open. Wide open. It's really fun. Rodgers, they won. Credit to them. Of course, they beat the Panthers. But he did not have a big statistical game, and he and Devontae did not do their thing. And really, this MVP deal has become this statistical horse race. It really is putting up the huge numbers. He blinked, which I think opens it up. Now, here's the deal. To really get these votes down the stretch, you're going to have to show off. You need to show off. So, which is why Rodgers and, yes, Henry, Peter, have an opportunity to do that. Mahomes, last 2 weeks, it's over. They play Atlanta. They play the Chargers. There are 1 p.m. kickoffs. It's not his show pony time is over. I still think Josh Allen, if he plays the Patriots, Monday Night Football.
Wow.
If Allen is going out there and lighting up touchdown after touchdown, and he's doing Bill Belichick shots on the sideline, and he's doing them, they're going in, he's putting up 40 points on the Patriots, Josh Allen has a say in this thing, too, as a guy who comes running. I also want to entertain this little option here where we have not seen since 2004 a co-MVP It does happen. It's not unheard of. 2004, Peyton Manning and the late Steve McNair tied as MVP, and they gave it to both. Prior to that, it had happened 3 times in the last 50 years. So we're having 4 viable candidates now. Mahomes, Rodgers, Derrick Henry if he steps up, and Josh Allen if he does too. Don't rule out 2 guys getting the MVP because you might be not knowing who to vote for. It's the best race I've seen in years. I'm so into it.
That 2-guy MVP you're talking about was really controversial. I want to ask Schrager something. I'm not a voter. You know how these voters vote and how it works. Let's say Aaron doesn't show off, Derrick Henry doesn't show off, and the numbers between Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes are pretty even, Steven, right? We're saying it's a stats thing. When does the narrative come into play? The narrative of 20 of 22 starters returning for the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is the best supported, it's not his fault, but he's the best supported quarterback in the National Football League, and our expectation for that team is that he leads them into a Super Bowl. The narrative of Aaron Rodgers and the Packers going into this season was terrible loss to the Niners. You got to get him help. Why does he have to put this team on his back every day, every play of the season? But he put up absurd numbers anyway and has the Packers sitting there in the 1 seed in the NFC. Doesn't the narrative then become he deserves it because he did this? And doesn't Patrick Mahomes have to do something like 50 touchdowns to get it again? How does that work in a voter's mind, Schrager?
It's why we watch the games week to week. It's why there are PR teams. It's why we in the media play a major role. It is the narrative, Kay. And I got to be honest, and I could put it right back to you, Kay. If the season were to end right now, we didn't have these final 2 weeks, I don't know who I would vote for MVP. So you're right.
I'd vote for Rodgers.
Any argument you want to make, and you would vote for Rodgers. I think I might vote for Rodgers as well. And I think the Mahomes Mafia would come out and say, now, wait a second here. Mahomes had a better season in a lot of statistical ways, and they haven't lost since week 5 and all these things. Look at Rodgers' game against Tampa Bay. That's why this is so fascinating this year. Kyle's right. It is wide open, and the narrative could be a million different narratives because someone out of Kansas City might say, hey, Rodgers lost a few games too. Patrick, he only lost 1, and he played awesome in it.
The narrative's critical, and it's the most important part of the Rodgers narrative, I think, is that they drafted his replacement. They said, see ya, you're going to be gone. Yeah. He himself said before the season started, I'm out of here. And then you turn in this season, I would just say this, narratives are great. And in a tie, narratives can break the tie. We've seen it. If Mahomes drops 9 touchdowns and 800 yards over the next 2 weeks, he's the MVP. The narratives are great. Stats and performance are better.
I think Rodgers has the edge. If Mahomes blows him out of the water over the next 2 weeks, then absolutely it goes to Kansas City. Great talk, guys. Let's bring in Ian Rappaport.
King Henry.
The entire King Henry, apparently. King Henry.